Thank you very much, and Gong Hei Fat Choi. Very excited to be here. I see many familiar faces, and some are new faces, but everybody's smiling, so thank you. And it's very exciting for Alon Wolf and myself to be here. In 2024 marks Magico's 20th year in business. And as always, New Year's bring exciting times for improvements and positive change. And what I'd like to introduce this morning is part of that positive change for Magico is our new partnership with Roksan Trading. And we're very excited to partner with them. It's a great company. They've been around for a long time, as you know, and very exciting to represent Magico in Hong Kong and China. We see their vision for more visibility of Magico throughout the territory, with better facility to demonstrate the product in a better way with excellent products that support the front end to make our product loudspeakers sound better. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce Alon Wolf and Eric Lee. We have a little ceremony to kick off this morning event to introduce their new appointment, which was January 1st, 2024, and our new partnership starting now. So,
yes.
Ceremony. Okay. Here's the certificate, so it's official.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's a check. Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've been here a few times, not as many times as Peter, but I haven't been here in a while. So I'm glad to see Hong Kong thriving and still the happening place that I remember. Lots of fun. Here we have the opportunity to introduce our latest and greatest, literally, product, which is the M7. The M7 is the latest generation of the M series that we have been building for the past 10 years almost, I think. And it's a cumulative of everything that we have learned over the years with conjunction with very new powerful tools that we now have in our possession to really introduce the product like none has ever seen before. First of all, it's a four-way loudspeaker as opposed to a three-way, which is a very kind of a more typical platform for floor-standing speaker. Four-way basically means that we have a dedicated mid-bass drivers, which change the equation of the power distribution of the speaker. A new 5-inch mid-range, as opposed to what we have used in prior speakers of that type, which was a 6-inch. New cone design with aluminum honeycomb structures that is almost 30% stiffer than the older design and almost third less heavy, which yields faster, more efficient attack and lower distortion. The structure is similar to the other M's. You have an aluminum structure, skeleton as we call it, where all the fastening of all the coupling is happening with the aluminum, which is then pressed against a carbon skin that helps to damp the structure, also extremely stiff and designed in a constrained layer damping system that helps dissipate the energy inside. Because remember, this is a sealed enclosure, tremendous pressure inside that somehow you have to control and dissipate. Again, I can talk about the M7 forever, but I think what we should do is listen to it a little bit, see if it's even worth talking about. The the history of Magico. So I've been building speakers for many years before Magico. Very early on, I think my first speakers I built when I was 14 years old. And of course, I'm an audiophile like most of you. So when I first checked that I made some money, I went and I bought my dream speakers. And the journey started, very similar to many others. But very quickly I started to get frustrated with the performance of the loudspeakers that were available. And I start modifying and building things to improve what I bought at the time. And at a certain point I started building stuff myself from scratch. It was a hobby. I was working full time doing something completely different. Some friends came and heard what I was doing and thought that this is pretty good and interesting. Can I build them one? So I built them speakers. And one of those people talked to some people in the industry, Jeff Rowland, if you all know Rowland Electronics. He came and heard what I was doing. He asked me to build him speakers. I built him actually 3 different pairs. And it's kind of interesting because it all goes back to Hong Kong. He, back then, his distribution in Hong Kong was Winston Ma. And he told Winston about me building speakers. And he thought that maybe I should build Winston or at least talk to Winston and see if there is something there to be done. And Winston called me and said, you know, Alon, I heard you building interesting stuff. Here in Hong Kong, we have a problem. Small apartment, money is no problem, but we don't have space. We like 2-ways, but all the 2-ways comes on ugly stands. Can you build something that looks good from top to bottom, not just nice speakers, ugly stand, everything? And I said, sure. I asked him about, price-wise. He says, no problem, just go for it. So I went for it and I built the Mini, the original Mini. Took me almost a year to build it. By then I knew more or less what I was doing. And when it was time for Winston to take them, called him up, says, Winston, the speakers are ready. I send him a picture. He's asking for the price and I give him the price. He's like, what? No, this is too expensive. He says, Winston, you told me the money is not an issue. This is how much it's going to cost. I was upset. So I just like, okay, never mind, boom. So I had that magnificent speaker that I built for Hong Kong, but nothing to do with. Jeff Rowland, again, suggested I take it to CES, which I have done myself. I put it in a van, drove to CES, rented a small room, and showed the Mini, and the rest is history.
But if you stay, I'll make you a day like no day has been or will be again. We'll sail the sun, we'll ride on the rain.
The challenge that a loudspeaker designer faces is listening to his speakers without the room that it's involved in. Because the interaction with the room, assuming it's even well treated when it comes to bass performance, room gain starts to kind of creep in. It can be up to 400, 300 hertz. You start getting the room interacted with the speaker. So you don't really know what it is that you're hearing. So if you're listening to it in your room and you design it and it's all fine, you take it somewhere else and it may not. So the goal that we had is to design a room that will have a minimal room gain, which means a room that can absorb most of the bass that the speakers are putting out without coming back to the room and creating all these interference. So it's a big challenge. It was very, very expensive to build. It took many months. But we are listening in an environment with minimal a room gain starts to kick in at around 100, 120 hertz, which is very low. and it allows us to hear the speaker the way the speakers are designed, not how they interact with the room. So people will ask, that's going to be the next question, maybe you wouldn't ask it, but I will, but who else has a room like this? Because nobody does. But here's the thing, you can change the room, you cannot change the speaker. So if I design a speaker to fit my room, it will never be right in your room. Doesn't matter what you're going to do. If I design a speaker to be fine, it's on you to treat the room. But if you twist the speaker around the room, it's going to only work in the room that you twisted around. So when you see, and I see it all the time, you see manufacturers, people sitting in their living room, they're writing down, the speakers are there, very expensive products, and you think to yourself, oh my God, this is going to work here, but what happened when you take it out to a different room? So with that new room that we have and the rest of the tools that we have while we're designing the speakers, we are able to literally be spot on from the beginning of the design to a point that by the time it's all done and I sit there and I push the play button, I literally don't have to do anything. The speakers are just as perfect as we can make them. And that's a big, big change, because in the past, without these tools, it was always a crapshoot. It was kind of working in the dark, because you can't really measure the speaker well below 800 hertz. You don't really know what's going on there. And you don't know what they sound like, because they're going to sound different no matter, depending on the environment. So the new S3 and the M7 are the first speakers that actually got to enjoy, the M9 as well, but that was in the beginning, got to enjoy these new tools and really take the performance to just a new height, if I may say so.
Thank you.
Thank you.